Hey everybody, Mark Herman, aka LA Bengal fan, and we are here for episode number 3 of Jungle Talk. And I'm joined here, as always, by my partner in crime, Sam Schneider. And Sam's from Primetime Sports Talk. Tell them where they can find all your stuff, Sam.
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Buy and Sell You. Like Mark said, I write for Primetime Sports Talk. You can find us at Talk Primetime or primetimesportstalk.com.
There you go. Well, we are, first of all, I want to apologize for the long delay. If you don't know, I do tax work, and it's been extremely busy for me. This is a welcome diversion because I'm going back to work right after this. And I want to point out that Sam, although I called him today on his phone, which is a 323 area code, Sam is now located in the 513 area code. So he is back in Ohio with you guys. So we are truly a Los Angeles to Cincinnati show now. So here you go.
Yeah, and you know what? I turned around. I'm looking right now. You can't see it, but there's boxes everywhere. I'm actually my laptop is sitting on top of a box right now.
Hey, perfect.
And here it is. It's April, and I got an inch and a half of snow on April 20th.
Yeah, we were in the low 60s today back here, and
No.
I know it was bad. To me, I consider that bad weather. So yeah, it's an off day here in California, but
it's like listening to porn.
yeah, I'm teasing you. So all right, well let's go through a little bit of the Bengal news. This is our draft preview show, so we'll go through a little bit of the Bengal news, and then we will jump right into just some draft talk. We're not going to do the paralysis by analysis. I don't believe in those. You know, these guys that do these 7-round mocks. I just, who's to say? There's so much fluidity. I don't like to see stuff beyond the first round, but we'll get into all that. First of all, we have to thank Gio for all the service, but Gio was released, signed with Tampa Bay. We wish him nothing but the best. I mean, this was a class guy, and so we did lose since our last taping. We were hoping we would keep Gio or figure out, release and re-sign. So we want to wish Gio the best.
Yeah, we're talking about a consummate professional, and especially in the last 2 years with Zach Taylor, he's been invaluable in the locker room. Obviously, he was supporting Zach. You never know if a guy's supporting the coach just because. What do you expect him to do?
Right.
But at the same time, he was pretty convicted when he would talk about what Zach was doing, and I think that was really important in leading along some of the younger guys on the team.
Right. So, well, we wish him well. We had the release of new uniforms. So and I would like to mention, if you are going to buy a new uniform, I should say when you are going to buy your new uniform, Ace Boogie has a special portal that you go through. So I guess he gets some kind of monetization. So go over to New Stripe City, use his link. You're going to pay this. You're not going to pay more for it. You're going to pay the same price. You might as well help support a fellow YouTuber and podcaster in New Stripe City and Ace Boogie. So if you're going to go buy the new unis, but we talked about them. I actually like them. I think they're cool.
Yeah, I love them. They're we keep talking about. I've heard the word clean so much.
Yeah.
And used it myself, and it's kind of funny actually because it's sponsored by Tide.
Oh, really?
I don't think anybody's really made that connection.
I haven't until just now.
Everybody keeps calling them clean, and it's like the Bengals logo and the Tide logo. And I don't know. That made me giggle a little.
Yeah,
bit.
no.
But yeah, I think they look great. I think simpler is better. When I saw them for the first time, I was like, yeah, they look good. But I'll tell you what, you go out there and find one of those pictures where it's a side by side of like somebody running in an old uniform and somebody running in a new, and somebody running, or if they superimposed it or whatever in a new uniform, you're like, yeah, it's the new. The new.
It's, you know what, they kept enough of the stripes and everything, but they gave it this modern, and I'm going to use the word clean look. That's what it is. It's, you know what, I'm going to give you a new word, sleek. They're very sleek looking. Yeah. And And so I definitely like them. I will be purchasing one through Ace Boogie's link. Not right away. I've got to decide. I've got this because I bought 2 Burrows last year, so now they're, it's now I've got the dated jersey. So I do, but I might get T Higgins. I do not have a Joe Mixon. I have a number 28 Corey Dillon, but it's the old jersey. So I don't know. Maybe a Mixon. I'm going to see. I'm going to think this out before I jump in and spend the money. But we're definitely going to get throw a couple of new jerseys, which I know I don't need, but I'm going to get them anyway. I've 35, 40, 45 jerseys. What's the difference?
Yeah, I've wanted since our draft last year. I've actually wanted a Marcus Bailey jersey. I watched so much tape on him and really, really love the way he plays. And I was like, man, I need him to like crack the starting lineup before I'm ready to rock the jersey, because I don't want to just have a special teams jersey.
Right. Well, I remember the gal from Bengals West who bought the Marcus Hunt jersey. So, and now he's back on the team. Yeah. So, yeah, Jen, right? Wasn't her name Jen? But yeah, she liked his whole story. And then, because I remember the first time I met her at one of the games, I said to her, okay, explain to me, I like the Marcus Hunt jersey, but it's not a jersey you see on a lot of Bengal fans. So it's nice to sometimes reach out and, like you're saying, get the Bailey jersey to be the one where people go, okay,
Well, and then of course, he came back last year.
Right. Oh,
like,
yeah.
Jen, bust back out the Marcus Hunt jersey.
Absolutely. So, well, she bought it. Like I said, she went bold. She was all in because he was a rookie. That was the whole when the SMU and the track team folding and all that. So, I want to touch on this right away because this just happened today. Orlando Brown traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. So you knew the Chiefs had a plan. Fisher and Schwartz, either not one or both, will not be back. I think Schwartz may wind up retiring personally because it's a back issue. But they clearly had a plan. They picked up Orlando Brown. He'll stay at left tackle. They get the first rounder and a couple other picks from Baltimore. And Baltimore also announced a little while ago that they basically have terms done. They plan on signing right after the draft Villanueva. So clearly this was their plan to pick up draft picks, move him on. But that's fresh off the press stuff today.
Yeah, and Kansas City is not screwing around with that offensive line. They went out and got Joe Thuney, and yeah, the deal was for a first rounder. So Baltimore now picks 27th and 31st,
right,
in the first round, which for them that's fantastic. You know what I mean? To get 2 picks at the end of the first, like you kind of see everything unfold and then say, well, who we got here?
Or you're sitting there and
somebody's going to fall.
Or you're sitting there in position now at 31 to trade back to a team that wants to jump in and do what they did for Lamar Jackson, jumping back into the first round to get the extra year and all that. So they're sitting right in that position. So it's a good play and they had a guy who didn't want to, who outwardly said, I'm not flexible on playing different spots on the line. So now you send him to a team that absolutely says, fine, you're our left tackle, we're not moving you. So
right. Yeah, and it I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Baltimore does there, because Baltimore has drafted well for years, especially under Ozzie. He's gone now, but especially under Ozzie, they've always drafted well, but they always take that one weird wide receiver early, and I'm like, who's it going to be this time?
Well, if one of the receivers falls, you can see them packaging those 2 picks up and jumping up to 16 or 18 and grabbing somebody that they think won't be there at their later pick. So
yeah,
certainly
that's true. I mean, you got somebody like everybody's talking about Devontae maybe dropping because he's. I mean, I've got my nephew, I think, is the size of Devontae Smith.
Right. Yeah.
He's like 6 foot, 166 pounds.
Wow.
And I know everybody's saying it doesn't matter. It matters.
I can't believe the guy.
Total BS.
30 pounds less than me. I mean,
yeah.
I weighed myself this morning. I'm 193. Right. back in the Northerners days, I was pushing 220. So 193 is a huge, I mean, I'm literally more than 25 pounds lighter than I
Right.
was when I was doing those Northerner shows.
And this dude plays professional football.
Oh, I can't even.
And he's
No.
and he's 166.
That's
166.
that's crazy.
That's like I could pick him up and throw him.
You know, well, that's that. So I wanted to hit that because this is fresh. We're recording this show on Friday, and that's this just happened today. Then I want to touch on a couple comments we saw. Joe Burrow has spoken outward about that Zach Taylor. I don't remember the exact quote. Is going to be great for a long time to come for us. I tweeted out that story. People sent stuff back to me. I still am on the Zach Taylor has to prove to me what's going on, but I also take it with a grain of salt because what else is he going to say? Just like Gio, you don't want to appear to be a problem. Gio landed on a team right away because he wasn't a problem. They brought him into a team that won a Super Bowl. They're not looking to screw up the chemistry, but you bring in a high caliber guy because he says all the right things all the time. So, Joe Burrow just could be doing that. And then
sure.
he also,
I mean, Joe Burrow could be the second coming, but it doesn't change the hierarchy of an organization. Right. The quarterback, in very rare instances, I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. He had no influence over Matt LaFleur. I don't care what anybody says.
They consulted him, though.
Anybody says.
No, they consulted him. I think they had a conversation.
Well, they might have said, "Look, we're gonna do this. Do you have a problem with it?" And he was probably like, "That's fine."
I think they probably had a meeting. I think they probably met informally and said, but I think they went to Aaron and talked to him a little bit. But
well, that's fine and everything. But I guess what I'm saying is Joe Burrow is not Aaron Rodgers yet.
No.
He's going to be a second-year player.
Right.
So it's what is he going to say? But it's also what if he says, "Well, I don't like Zach Taylor." They're not going to be like, "Okay, well, we'll fire him for you, Joe."
No, it's just like I said. So I take things. It's just a headline. I take it with a grain of salt. He also talked about how he trusts the team to make the right decision. He basically said there are people with way more information than me, and this was in response to all the talk about how he was lobbying for Chase. It's so funny that you and I were talking about, Chase makes a comment, the two of them talked 2 months ago, and he says, yeah, it'd be great to reunite. And that becomes like this headline that Burrow's lobbying for them to come back. And from what I'm reading, that's never happened.
Yeah, no, it's, as far as I can tell, it was basically just two dudes, and in passing, it was one of those, hey, wouldn't it be great to get the band back together?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Who doesn't want the band back together? Yeah.
Who wouldn't say yes to that? And frankly, they could take I can't remember his name, the other LSU wide receiver in the second round if they wanted to.
Actually, we'll get into that. He's one of my guys that I would like to see there in the second, and we'll get into that. But there's talk that he's going to go in the first. I've seen multiple mocks where people have, because of his speed, have moved up. So,
but your point is completely valid. It was just one of those things where
passing comment.
Somebody flat out asked Jamar Chase. We've heard that you and Burrow want to talk, and that Burrow really wants you to come to Cincinnati and really wants you guys to play together. How do you feel about that? And Jamar was like, I don't know. We talked about it like once 2 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not like Burrow is like knocking on the door going, hey, have you talked to Chase yet? Have you talked to Chase yet? Have you talked to Chase yet? It's not like that.
No.
If you believe it's like that, you don't know the business.
Well, and that's the thing. I want to remind everybody, and then we're going to get into the draft, but I want to remind everybody, this is the season, I've said it in multiple videos, of misinformation. If you are a team that wants, I would like to see Sewell fall to us at 5. I don't want Atlanta taking them. So if you make everybody aware that you're looking at Pitts and you're looking at Chase, and if you want one of these guys, you have to trade with Atlanta, that would ensure if somebody jumped up to take Chase or take Pitts, trade with Atlanta, we have Sewell. Everybody's doing this. They're talking up players they have no interest in taking, so that teams jump ahead of them to take that player, and the person you actually want falls to you. So this is the season of misinformation, and I truly believe that that's why we're talking so heavily about Chase and Pitts, because I don't think that that's who we're going after. But we'll get into that in a second. The last thing I want to talk about, this is going to transition us into the draft, was you and I were talking before we were recording, and I was like, why the hell are we drafting 38th in the second round when we had the 5th overall pick? And you guys at Primetime Sports have the answer. So please explain to us why in 2, 4, and 6 we are not drafting in our regular position.
So the answer is that we finished with the same record as Philadelphia, and the tiebreaker would be head-to-head record, but we tied. So consequently, what happens is you alternate picks per round. So we picked 5, they picked 6. The next round, they picked 5, we picked 6. The only reason we picked 5 before them is because we had the weaker strength of schedule.
There you have it.
So we get to go first, they go after us, and then we switch. So that's why you'll see in each round, the Bengals will always pick 6th in the even rounds and 5th in the odd rounds.
There you go. So I knew there was a simple explanation for it. I didn't understand it, and I'm glad that you got that information for us. Now we're going to jump straight into our draft discussion. Like I said, I'm not a fan of the paralysis by analysis. I really don't like hearing guys talk about 4th and 5th, because you just don't know. Look at last year's draft. We never in a million years thought T. Higgins would be there for us at the second round. We just assumed every mock I saw had him going to Green Bay.
Right.
And God knows Aaron Rodgers wanted that. If you look at the Jeopardy episode where the person says, who asked you to, he clearly wanted help. And,
right.
And so we would never have expected. So all the mocks did, there's T. Higgins day one. I think about also the year we didn't trade up. Cody Ford fell to the second day. There were a whole bunch of tackles that fell to the second day, and we tried to trade up and were not able to do so. But we were trying to trade up and after we got Jonah, get another tackle, and we didn't do that. But that's because no one expected those guys to be there, and that's going to happen day one this year as well. So I just hate too much analysis. Is just.
Yeah, and we can do, if we have time and get more information together, we can certainly do another episode next week. And it's not going to be, predictions, because I think predictions are just for people to try to pat themselves on the back, and 99% of the time they're wrong.
Right.
They're completely wrong.
Right.
They're like, yeah, and then we're going to get this guy in the 6th. And I'm like, no, you're not.
Right.
You're really not. Like, you have no idea. But it wouldn't be bad to maybe sit and talk about like a wish list and say, here's a guy that might be around in the 6th round that would be fun to get. Here's a guy in the 7th round that would be fun to get. But it's just impossible to predict. And frankly, the people that do sit around and try to predict it and do all the mocks, do all the mocks you want. Have a good time.
Yeah.
Do all the mocks you want. But I'm telling you right now, all the mock draft sites you're on, if you think you're going to come up with the draft that we're going to do, you are just so out there.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. Sure, it's fun to do. It's fun to do, and it's fun to wish list. I saw a guy had a mock today where we took Patrick Surtain in the 2nd round.
You're not going to be there.
He's going to be gone by 15.
Yeah, you're not going to be there.
Gone by number 15.
No,
it's ridiculous.
Right.
But it's like if you keep hitting refresh enough times,
he'll be there.
Eventually, the computer's like, all right, fine. Who do you want?
Fine. Who do you want? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, and it's crazy.
You want to stick to the routine? Okay.
Well, we're going to have. There's going to be jockeying around of teams that are going to be trading back, trading up. Like I said, I think Baltimore's in a good position to trade out of one of those picks if a quarterback falls. I don't mind us trading back if it's only a couple places, because I'm going to say right now, I'm on the Sewell train. I want Penny Sewell, Sewell, Sewell. I'll say it 1,000 times. We can pick up a receiver to stretch the field in the second or third round. Yeah, it's not going to be Chase, but let's let everybody think we're taking Chase. So maybe Atlanta or somebody comes. But I just seriously, and I don't mind trading back just a couple places, and we could take the kid from Northwestern. You know?
Yes, later. Yeah.
Yeah. And we would pick up the trade capital we would pick up by moving back. Let's say we traded with Carolina and fell back to 8. We would pick up their second round pick. And with that second round pick, we could grab, we grab Slater now, and we could grab, a guard and a receiver in the second round, because we'd have.
Yeah, the only problem with that idea is that I think Carolina would probably really like to have Slater. So they might not want to. Slater's, I mean, he's being mocked to go in like the 12 to 15 range. I think probably closer to 12, even though it's a deep class for offensive linemen. But I'm with you. I'm on the Sewell train.
Yeah.
I want him. However, the source that I have inside the Bengals, who thus far has proved extremely reliable,
Okay.
when asked flat out, so we take Sewell first, right? He said, no, Chase, and then offensive lineman in the second round.
Okay. So
and it didn't sound like it was just his opinion.
Okay.
For whatever that's worth. And I don't mind it, as long as we know. Maybe we're a little gun shy after the whole Jake Fisher Aboyehi thing.
Right.
Maybe we're a little gun shy about offensive linemen in the first round, and I get that a little bit. But Sewell is, nobody called Aboyehi or Fisher a generational talent.
No.
Sewell has been called a generational
Yeah.
talent, like a guy that's just going to be there forever. Now,
Right.
I will say, when I look down the line, if we did go Chase first, and I have no problem with Chase, I just would prefer to draft Sewell.
I'm in the same boat. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Chase he's a great player. I mean, we're talking. I don't think people talk about his stats his last year in school, in one season when he won the championship with Burrow.
Right.
84 catches. In
Right.
college, that's absurd.
Right.
1,780 yards. In college, that's still absurd.
Right.
A 21 plus yard average, and just take a guess how many touchdowns.
You know what? It's late in the day. I've been working numbers all day. So
20.
I was going to guess 12 to 15. So
he caught 20 touchdowns. So we both agree that Chase is a good player, but we would just prefer to have Sewell over there protecting the backside, obviously. But you look then in the second round, you've got Dylan Radunz from North Dakota State. He's a good player. Leatherwood is probably a reach for 38. Jalen Mayfield from Michigan, that's definitely a reach at 38. Right. And I've seen him mocked at 34, 35. That's ridiculous. He's not that good. So I really hope, and I know a lot of Ohio people don't want a Michigan player anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, but I'm on the Sewell train now. I won't be devastated, but I do want Sewell. But if it was Chase, I could live with it. What I don't want is Pitts. And I know that there's a lot of people who have talked about him and the Kelsey mold and everything, but I've also seen him compared to like Plaxico Burress. Well, you wouldn't draft Plaxico Burress in the top 10. So, I mean, it's just, and the other thing is I'm still soured by Tyler Eifert. We have not, and Jermaine Gresham, we have not done well drafting tight ends with our first overall pick, and I don't want to start now. I mean, if it's not Sewell, it better be Chase, because I don't think Pitts is the guy.
Well, I mean, I mentioned the term gun shy in reference to the offensive line, And I think that also applies to tight ends at this point.
Yeah.
You know, once again, you can say Pitts is a generational talent. Eifert was too, but
Right.
but
Great
you
at the
you
contested
can't account
catch,
for
yeah. And
you can't account for broken legs and
the
getting
elbow.
hurt because you're going all out. And it wasn't Eifert's fault. He was going all out, and that's what you want. But yeah, like you're gun shy.
Week
You're gun
one,
shy.
that elbow injury.
I don't blame you one iota. And actually, it's funny you bring that up because and I'm not going anywhere past the third, but this is just a name to throw out there to maybe remember, and it's Brevin Jordan, who was the tight end at Miami, who's got just unbelievably raw talent. Like he should not last to the third, but he's probably going to. And that's, if you really, really want a tight end, that's probably where you should be looking. You know, Pitts you don't need. Chase, Sewell, great. But the tight end position. First of all, um, you've still got a sample, and that was a Zach Taylor draft,
Right.
so he's going to be around. You've still got Uzama for another year, I believe.
And we added
Um,
Moss.
yeah, and we added Moss.
So we brought in a band member. Granted, he was a percussionist in the background, doing
Right.
the cymbals and stuff, but he's still
Yeah,
in the band of LSU. So
yeah, and the only problem with Moss is that like he can't block. Like
no.
he
Well,
can't block at all.
do you want to
So
hear something funny?
so he's basically Drew Sample, but
Can't
from
block.
another college.
Yeah.
Like,
But I will say, when you look at like the Giants and Evan Ingram and how he was supposed to pan out and how he dropped such critical passes, Moss caught everything that Burrow threw him. He caught every single touchdown that Burrow threw him. He held on to. And you can't say that about some of these other guys that supposedly have more athletic ability. And he still, even though he's Ringo, he was still part of the band. So,
no,
yeah,
Hey, listen, Ringo was
I mean,
Ringo was very underrated.
yes. So, but that's my point is that, I want, and I saw somebody on Twitter say, well, I go for Pitts over Chase because at least if we need to, Pitts can block. There's nothing in Pitts' game that shows that he's any kind of a blocking tight end. So,
Well, and that's not why you draft a guy
no,
like Pitts.
right.
That's that you draft him because you want a weapon.
I want it.
Not
If
'cause
you're
you
going to
want
go that high, he's better be the second coming of Kelsey. That's
Right.
nothing short of that is going to warrant number 5.
Exactly. And this is what I'm saying. Like the Brevin Jordan, who I mentioned, possibly being there in the third round. He should go probably end of second, but we'll see what happens once there's a run on tackles
Right.
and offensive linemen. But Brevin Jordan is a phenomenal blocker.
Right.
He can catch the ball too. He's just got tons of raw talent. So that's a guy that I'd be targeting, in the third round. And like I said, I'm not going any further than the third.
No.
But he's a name to look out for. And I know that we've yet to mention anybody about the edge or anything like that. So maybe if we do a video next week, we can just talk about a wish list of some guys that might still be there, after the second round of, edge guys,
J3 guys.
cornerbacks, maybe a linebacker. Because here's the thing. When you look at our roster, we have certain things we don't really need. Punter, long snapper,
Right.
running back, but we'll take one anyway.
Late. It better be deep in day 3.
Right. So we don't really need those. And then that's it.
Right. Well, you know what? I don't think we need a safety. I don't think we need a safety. I think we're pretty well stocked at safety. We get Trey
Pro-
Wayans back. I think we're pretty set there. So
probably good at safety.
maybe a hybrid guy that could play safety, or bring him in on the nickel. He could play safety or corner. But I don't see us. Our secondary is pretty solid.
I agree. I agree. I agree for the most part. Well, I want to see what happens in the slot
Right.
without Mac Alexander here.
Right. Yeah, I really wish he went back to Minnesota, but I thank him for the 1 year rental. He was a bargain, and
And he played great.
he played great, and we welcome him back next year because he's on a 1 year deal at Minnesota. So
Yeah, he was actually my most. I was most disappointed to lose him. Even over, and people are going to hate me for this, but even over letting Gino walk, I was most upset about losing Mackenzie Alexander. He
yeah,
was so key to shoring up that secondary. And don't get me wrong, I love Gino, excuse me.
yeah.
I love him to death, and I'm sad to see him go. But um, I was more upset that Mackenzie Alexander was
Right.
gone.
Well, and we could still, after the draft, like I said, the Ravens already have Villanueva lined up. Trey Turner's still out there. Easton's still out there. Who was the guy on New Orleans who I can't, his name slips my mind, who actually opted out of last year? Um, so, but
Oh, uh, um,
if we can't remember it, you guys can put it in the comments below. But there are guards out there for us to go get. So, like I said, I'm on the Sewell, and then hopefully, Marshall. That's the other receiver on LSU. I would
that's
love to
right.
see Marshall be there for us. All the mocks I've seen and all the talk I've heard is that somebody's going to jump up and grab him in the first at the end of one.
Yeah, we'll
So,
see what happens. I'm with you. I'm Team Sewell as well.
yeah.
I have a hard time discounting the source that pretty matter of factly said it's going to be Chase, and then we're going offensive lineman in the second round.
Well, I want to remind everybody, Atlanta traded basically their entire draft to Cleveland and took Julio Jones after we took AJ Green. Both guys were panned out in terms of production for their teams. And I remind everybody, and this is when somebody says, I'm going to trade you your entire draft and I'm going to go and get this one guy. Atlanta got Julio Jones. The Browns they packaged up and wound up with their picks. They wound up jumping back in. They got Brandon Weeden. They got Greg Little. They got a few different people who ultimately they never had on the team. So that's where we're at. All right, everybody. So that's the joy of doing these things live. Sam had a minor emergency. It's taken care of. He's back. If I can edit it out, I will. If I can't, please don't hold it against me. It is what it is. This is
There's a little commotion in the other room that I had to run and check on. So
it's an organic show in nature. So the last thing I was going to throw out there was we met with this kid from Charleston who's got really great speed. I mean, he ran and I tweeted this out. Obviously he's he's a late deep a day 3 pick, but the guy ran a 4.5 40, but he's got work to do. So if we need people to stretch the field, if you're looking for speed guys that can still run routes that aren't John Ross, they are going to be available on day 3. So that's my only feeling.
Want another John Ross.
No, and that's probably, we were talking about how you're soured on it. That's the other thing. I mean, I realize I'm not saying Chase is going to be successful. I realize that, John Ross was a stupid pick because we could have got him in the second round or late in the first on the draft, but it still kind of sours you on the position. So,
yeah, I think it's interesting that, one way I look at the, from my source talking about Jamar Chase is that, I think Mike Brown himself, even though he's not really in full control of the team anymore, he still has input, certainly, as the owner. And I think he's a fan of, first of all, he was a fan of AJ. But I think he's a fan of getting that important receiver early, because it's exciting. It's almost Al Davis like, when they were taking a wide receiver every
Yeah, but
single year.
Hayward Bay, Al
Yeah,
Davis made major misses. Jamarcus Russell. I mean, so that whole thought process kind of sends you down that road. And
yeah.
and I think right before you left, what I was talking about was the Browns getting their entire amount of draft, Atlanta's draft, and 3 years later, the Browns had nothing to show for that trade. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't have Brandon Whedon anymore. They didn't have who was the running back they took from who bounced
I don't
around.
remember, but none of them are on the team anymore.
3 years later, they packaged up picks, they moved back in, and everybody was talking about how the Browns orchestrated the board. They had nothing, and Julio Jones is still on Atlanta. So there's something to be said about getting an elite player, which is something that Duke Tobin has said, and multiple Bengals people have said that they're comfortable staying put and getting the elite player. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so so that's
Well, I
the role.
mean, you can't blame. Here's the best thing. At the end of the day, um, the reason I would never trade out of number 5 is that there is not a bad pick at number 5.
No,
You're going to get Sewell. You're going to get Chase. Even though we don't want Pitts, Pitts will be there. There's going to be plenty of guys. There's just not a bad pick at that position. So, we're in good shape no matter what. Well, one camp, the Chase camp, will really be happy as far as fans go.
right.
The Sewell camp will be very happy as far as if they get Sewell. There'll be a couple people out there that are going to be really excited about Pitts. And,
I
at
don't
the
even
end,
think we need to talk about Pitts because if we're assuming that three quarterbacks are going in the top three,
Mhm.
we're going to have Chase or Sewell. So we don't even have to go past that.
If not 4, because Atlanta could still take one, even though Matt Ryan still has 2 years left on his contract. But I think Atlanta might be willing to trade down if they're if they want to. I mean, they might give up that pick to somebody like Washington, who wants to come up and take a Mac Jones, or someone along that lines. I seriously doubt the Patriots would do it, but they're another option. So I think Atlanta at that pick, after the first 3 are off the board, especially if the first 3 do not include Josh Fields, which is possible, um, then there's going to be a lot of people knocking on Atlanta's door before us to get another quarterback. So there could be 4 quarterbacks before we pick
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields. I
You
I
called him Josh in another video, and people said, "Who is Josh?" So
I
as
say
soon as you said it,
I
I
don't
said, "There
know.
it is."
I don't know what it is. I call him Josh every single time.
Looks like a Josh to you, I guess.
I guess
So,
so.
but all
I'm
right.
just
So I want to disclose I'm having my second COVID shot, and it's actually Thursday. So I don't know how I'm going to feel Friday. If you don't see me on Twitter, maybe I'm having I've heard people being sick a day or two after their shot, but I had the first one on April Fool's Day, and the second one is the 28th, so or 29th. So there you have it. So we're going to try to get a show up next week. It's very fluid. I don't know if we get another one up, just stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you get the alerts, so you know if we put something up after the first round, after the second, or a recap the following week, or another preview. Let's just see how the week plays out. But things are so packed for me, tax wise, doing all the tax work that, we'll do the best we can.
I do want to mention, Mark, if I may, plug Primetime Sports Talk
Please do.
again.
Yes.
For anybody that's watching, that's really a draft head that really likes to get into it, on our site, primetimesportstalk.com, thus far, we have over 150 individual in-depth scouting reports on players. So pretty much anybody who's anybody that's going to go, in the first 4 rounds, 5 rounds, they're all on there. You can just click the search icon, put their name in, it'll be in the title. In addition to that, There was a post free agency mock draft for every single team. In addition, there are several full mock drafts and several just first round mock drafts. So head on over there and look up your guys. A bunch of the guys that we mentioned today are all there, and you can see, it's separated hands, separation, agility, injury, everything. So check it out.
Good stuff. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not into all that. I just like to get into the live event, but there's a lot of people that are into that analysis, the paralysis by analysis. So
Right.
go feast. The table's there for you. All right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap up. I want to say hoo day, everybody, and please subscribe. And let's Penny Sewell. I'm still going to say it. I want Sewell, but we'll see how it plays out. Take care, everybody.
Hootie.
Hoo day.